We got a lot of PC hardware news. I haven't done one of these videos in like a week because I've been benchmarking so much stuff. And anyway, so good news about GPU prices. It's looking like in China, retailers are starting to sell AMD and Nvidia GPUs significantly below MSRP. I'm seeing this report from WCCF Tech, who is getting it from a Chinese source. But if I get out of the way here, if we look through the various models here, now these are retailer pricings. The used prices are going even lower. But we can see the, I think the important thing here would be the percentage difference versus MSRP. So we can see what percent below MSRP we are. And I don't think it's any shock to see that cards that had a stupidly high MSRP, like the 3090 Ti, have the largest dips below MSRP at 38%. Whereas the 3090, again, with a heavily inflated, and the 3080 Ti with a heavily inflated MSRP, all seeing around a 30% dip below MSRP. Now, the 3080 12 gigabyte, which never got an official MSRP, so we can't look at it in that case, looks like it is selling in China for around $699, which was the MSRP, at least, of the 10 gigabyte model, which it's looking like is now available for slightly below its MSRP. And this just continues down the stack, and we are also seeing AMD GPUs below MSRP. And again, the top products like the 6900 XT, which had the inflated MSRP right kind of from the start, is having the largest decline here. But overall, we're seeing prices heavily below MSRP, which is a very good thing, because a lot of times I'm reporting on prices coming down in the US, while there's other markets in the world, and all of them do, in the end, start to kind of influence each other and all of that. But there you go, Chinese prices down. Now, speaking of GPU prices, we saw this RX 6700 without an XT on it being talked about quite a bit. Apparently these actually are up for sale at a few retailers, at least in Europe. Where we're seeing in France and Spain, we're seeing some fairly high pricing on these at 570 to 580 euros, and that includes VAT. But there's a Spanish store which is selling it for 380 euros, which I would hope to be closer to where we would actually see something like this priced. If you're not up to date on what this thing is, it looks like the non-XT version is probably a rebranded mining card, since mining cards aren't selling super well these days. And it should slot in between the 6650 XT and the 6700 XT with 10 gigabytes of VRAM rather than the 12 or the 8 of those respective cards in between. And, you know, the CUDA core wise, it is also kind of splitting. The difference may be a little bit, well, yeah, it is pretty evenly between them. So there is a place for this, although it's looking a little bit crowded in that spot. Now, speaking of price drops, and in the US, it's the first time we've seen a Founders Edition card. Remember, these are the ones actually, you know, from Nvidia themselves, priced below MSRP. And once again, it is that 3090 Ti model, which had such a silly MSRP in the first place. But this is the first time we've seen Best Buy, who is the official retailer for Nvidia's Founders Edition cards in the United States, actually marking it down $400 below MSRP. Although on Nvidia's own site, they are still listing it at the full original MSRP, which is interesting. Now, if you are looking for a stupidly overpriced 3090 Ti, you could get the Kingpin model that's coming out for $2,500 US. Now, they'll throw in a 1600 watt power supply with it, and here's the interesting update, which is check out this adapter they've got. So this adapter from EVGA, which I guess goes along with this card, although maybe it could also go along with some of our rumored power-hungry 4000 series cards. This thing has 5 8-pin power adapters that then lead into 2 of the 16-pin PCIe 5 power connectors, which will be the connectors on, I believe, this Kingpin card. They should have a TI on that there. That's a typo. Anyway, this is definitely a TI. But we could also be seeing that kind of power connector on future GPUs. So hopefully new high-end GPUs don't always need to be bundled with a 1600 watt power supply, but keep in mind this Kingpin model is specifically designed for extreme overclocking, and that would explain this extreme power delivery systems. Now, if in the again interest of them having to cut prices and offer incentives, reasons to buy high-end GPUs as we get closer to the next generation, it looks like Nvidia is offering a game bundle now. We saw AMD do this recently with their Raise the Game bundle. It's looking like if you get a 3090 Ti, 3090, 3080 Ti, or 3080 desktop or laptop GPU, they're going to throw in Ghostwire Tokyo as well as Doom Eternal and a couple of expansions to Doom Eternal along with that. So if you are still interested in buying a high-end card at this point in the generation, and you'll get some games thrown in there with it. Now, I actually just started finally actually trying to play Ghostwire Tokyo, and it seems okay. It doesn't seem great, but I'm not that far into it yet, so I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me. What do you guys think? Now, let's talk about some AMD rumors and leaks. So for a while now, we've seen rumors that the RDNA 3 Navi 31 GPU, which would be your top end, we would expect to see this on something like a 7900 XT, something like that from AMD, that it would have one GCD, but 6 MCDs. And that does seem to be confirmed, at least probably, in a leak from AMD themselves. They updated the Linux drivers with a line that has been changed, I guess, since then, to try to hide what it is. But I guess it says MCD instance number and had a 6 on it. So it does seem to be confirming that there would be 6 MCDs. Now, that's a memory complex or memory controller dies, if you're wondering what does MCD stand for. And we're seeing some of the general leaker type peoples out there with this, Kepler being one of the top ones here. And he's talking about what that might actually mean. He's saying 32 megabytes plus 64-bit MC normally, plus 32 megabyte 3D V-cache on some models. So they're talking about a possibility of V-cache going on top of some of these. So what this would mean, I guess, would be that the card would have a 384-bit memory bus, and that would probably be 192 megabytes of infinity cache. If they did go with the 3D V-cache on top, that could go up to 384 megabytes, which would be absolutely huge. And that is confirming some of these block diagrams and leaks that we'd seen earlier. So this would be interesting, that this could be, meaning we'd seen an infinity cache size that's 50% larger than Navi 21. And you can see in this chart from videocards.com our rumored Navi 31 in info and specs up against, as well as what we've seen rumored from Navi 32 and Navi 33. Again, to be clear, all of this is based on rumors, so we don't actually know for sure what to expect on all of this. It seems like the rumor mill on the AMD cards has been a bit quieter than what we've seen from the Nvidia front here. But we would still be expecting these in, I'd guess probably Q4 of this year, but, we'll see what happens. Now, in other AMD-related news, I saw this interesting article talking about AMD's encoder being updated and tested, because this is one of the things that a lot of people, why you might go NVIDIA instead of AMD is streaming and encoding. Well, NVIDIA's NVENC encoder has always been better than AMD's H.264 encoding. Now, I've seen this article here, which is showing that AMD has reintroduced B-frames into their AMF encoding. And if you look at the orange line is their encoding with these B-frames added back in versus the blue line without, and it does seem to be quite a bit better. And this, I think, is AMD in red versus NVIDIA in orange and Intel in blue with their encoders here. So AMD does still seem to be lagging a bit behind, but closing the gap here. But the problem is that the streaming software needs to have support for this, and it's looking like this does not seem to be the case yet in major streaming software. So until this gets software support, this doesn't really actually help streamers. And to note, this is done, these values here do seem to be done at a low bit rate, I think 5,000 bits per second or whatever, which would be similar to what you would actually use in streaming. So this is interesting. It's nice to see AMD improving this, but if we don't get support from streaming software, then it doesn't end up doing much for us. But at least AMD can do their end, and maybe I don't know. It'd be nice if they could get it pushed into actual support for real streaming. Now, how about Intel? Well, this is interesting. How about we get on the truck? So in Intel marketing, we're seeing them show that they're going to have a semi-truck with a bunch of Intel Arc GPU-based gaming systems going around with, for marketing purposes. I guess they're headed to the... where was this heading to? I had it here, but then I forgot. The Landfest in Colorado, that's the one. And this will be late September. So, this is interesting. One other interesting we see here is this image in the 3D render, so we haven't seen an Intel GPU design that looks quite like that leaked yet. So that's only a low-res image in a marketing image here. So who knows if that actually indicates what we'll see here. But so far we've been pretty underwhelmed with the Intel Arc GPU stuff. So moving forward with some more Intel Arc stuff, we're seeing some of these must be entering testing. The A770M and the A550M, which we haven't seen tested yet. We are seeing 3D Mark scores showing up here, although it's unclear yet whether these scores are including the... Remember, Intel has this little optimization thing for 3D Mark benchmarks, which make them unrealistic and unofficial scores that don't well represent their actual gaming performance. So while it does look like this leaked score shows the A770M to be as good as an RTX 3070M in 3D Mark on the similar CPU-based when tested here, it doesn't look like that's going to be the actual gaming performance, because when we look at an earlier article that leaked out, some information that originally came from Tom's Hardware, they claim to have Intel's official press deck for review units for the mobile Arc GPUs, and those actually showed this A770M only being about 12% faster than a mobile 3060, and they showed the A730M only being about 13% faster than a mobile 3050 Ti. So with that taken into account, I wouldn't read too much into these new 3D Mark benchmarks showing it closer to the 3070 in terms of performance, assuming these initial leaks that, again, were from Tom's Hardware were official, and they did seem to be the case. Also of note, it seems to be that the Nvidia GPUs these were being compared against here actually had higher power draw anyway, which is a big deal when it comes to the mobile GPU segment. Power draw is everything. So yeah, I don't know. In other news related to that, though, we are seeing Intel NUCs. That should be coming up to feature a 12700H CPU and Arc A730M and A550M graphics. Although to me, this sounds like there'll be a downgrade compared to the NUCs that featured Nvidia GPUs in the past. So I wouldn't be super excited about that myself. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Now, in other Intel news, we've seen rumors that Intel's CEO is going to be visiting TSMC next month, as well as the 14th Gen Meteor Lake allegedly being pushed back to the end of 2023. Now, again, this is just rumors, so we'll see what actually comes out of that. Now, also, a little bit of related news with, AMD up against some Intel stuff here. So in a handheld gaming PC, now these are the GPD Win Max 2s. These are interesting. These are, there's this move with the Steam Deck to these handheld gaming PC consoles. This space has been heating up quite a bit. Now, GPD Win Max 2 is interesting because this one has more of a full laptop. Well, it's not like a full size, but has an actual keyboard. This isn't moving into like the Switch style handheld, but it does have the, still have the kind of built-in controller here as well. So this is an interesting setup for somebody who wants more of an actual laptop, but still has the built-in controller and such. Now, this comes with a AMD-based Ryzen 7 6800U, as well as it has an Intel Core i5 1260p variant. But it's looking like in initial testing, the Intel CPU setup here is just getting absolutely obliterated. Like here's Horizon in 800p at favor performance settings, and we're seeing an absolute destruction of the Intel system here. I believe the scale on the side here is the TDP, so that's your power draw settings. Here we're seeing Borderlands 3 at 50% res scale. And again, it looks like it's getting absolutely smashed here. So if you were thinking about getting one of these, I would definitely say you would want to be getting the AMD-based system here. But I have other interesting news on this, which is that it looks like there could be some official support from Valve to optimize SteamOS for this device, and that could also lead to good support for other 6800U-based systems. So we're seeing this from the official GPD project owner on, I think this is their Indiegogo is where this screenshot came from, but any plans to integrate with SteamOS, and we're saying appreciate your support. As early as March this year, Valve contacted us about cooperation proposal, but for this cooperation, Valve needs to match the appropriate SteamOS system for our 6800U handheld. So we need to provide them the official device to Valve, and they're saying this process could take half a year. Now, why I'm interested here is it looks like that Valve is interested in officially, getting SteamOS well integrated into other competing handhelds. Because to be honest, I don't think Valve sees these so much as competitors. I think that, Valve's goal with their Steam Decks is really to get people into the Steam ecosystem and to sell games through Steam and to make money off of the game sales. So I think it's really exciting to see these handheld gaming PCs, heating up, and that we could be seeing better SteamOS support for them. I think that would be fantastic to see that growing and getting official support from Valve, although we did see that half a year statement there. So, we'll see how soon that's getting updated. Now we're seeing another interesting 6800U based console, and this one is much more of one of these small handheld support systems getting kick-started as well here. And this one, I don't know how you would try to pronounce that. Do you just say AOKZOE? AOKZOE? I don't know, man. But it looks like orders starting at $899. And remember, these 6800U based systems should outperform the actual Steam Deck because they have a more compute units and newer CPU design and all of that. Now, a few last little quick things. It's looking like we're seeing that DLSS support is being expanded to even more games coming up soon, which is now getting it into over 200 games and apps, with FSR already, despite coming out later, catching up to 110, although that's the FSR 1.0 rather than 2.0. It looks like Loopmancer is one of the ones getting featured here with upcoming support here, as well as we're seeing that we'll see Helphi and Lord of the Rings Gollum and Stell Rising should be also getting some support. Now, speaking of FSR 2.0, modders have been really taking to this scene. As soon as this went open source, modders have been adding FSR 2.0 support to a bunch of games that have DLSS supports. And now this is interesting, which is, so if you don't use it to res scale, you can use it to add in, you can still use it for its anti-aliasing, similar to how a few games have done that with DLSS, where they use it as like DLAA, where you don't actually improve performance in the game, you improve its anti-aliasing if the game doesn't have great native TAA implementation. Well, it looks like a modder has done that in Metro Exodus. To get some, so basically you just run the FSR at its full resolution, and then you get the anti-aliasing, which he's calling FSRAA, in that. And he has some, image quality comparisons here. So anyway, it's really exciting to see what modders are able to do when you release this stuff as open source. Which, it'd always be nice if Nvidia would go a little more open source with their stuff, but hey, what are you going to do? Now we're seeing some good news here that DRAM prices should decline by 10% in Q3 of 2022. Suppliers ready to accept price cuts based on lower consumer demand. So that's exciting. What's not exciting is we've seen that Forspoken, which is an upcoming game, is being delayed. And the reason why that's disappointing, other than just the game being delayed, is this was going to be the upcoming game with DirectStorage. So this was our excited, we're going to finally see what DirectStorage is like on PC, but the game being delayed till next year means, we don't have any upcoming games now that we know will have DirectStorage coming out to test this year, which is a bit disappointing. And I'll leave you guys with this for the end here. A Reddit user has tabulated the top most discussed graphics card on the platform. And it looks like the RTX 3070 has been the most discussed this year. And they produced this interesting list. So it does look like the 3070 was the most discussed. And there's the 3060 Ti as a follow-up, with the 5700 XT from AMD coming in third. Although it does look like the Nvidia is taking most of the top spots here on that list. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting article to dive into. If you want to look into how they used Luria to create the list, you could dive further into this article. But I'll leave all the links to everything, all the articles in the description as usual, and I hope all of you have an excellent day.